Hey guys, I just got back from seeing the 2026 classic Markiplier movie, Iron Lung. This is Mark's first directorial debut on the big screen, previously doing some choose your own adventure stuff for YouTube and a limited series on his own channel. I figured if he was gonna go off YouTube and try something else, it would be like a choose your own adventure game, like, Dispatch or something, but here we are. This is an adaptation of the Iron Lung video game created by David Szymanski in 2022. Admittedly, I haven't played it, though I genuinely do think I should go and check this one out because I do have a couple of problems with the Iron Lung movie that I think wouldn't happen in the game. Despite that, I did still find some positive things to say about this movie. The scope is so much higher for a YouTube movie than I think we've ever seen before. With something like Smosh the movie, it's just trying to adapt Smosh to the big screen. With something like Fred the movie, it's trying to do the same thing. And with this scope being so much higher, it just makes it so much easier to mess up along the way. With Iron Lung, the ambition and effort is so clearly there, it just misses the Markiplier on a few elements. It has been quite the wait for this movie. I remember seeing the initial teaser drop in 2023, but I feel like Mark has been stuck in hell trying to get this thing distributed. I was following his Edge of Sleep series, and that also went through hell and back to get distributed, being on Amazon for like a month, like topping all the charts on Amazon, then it's getting kicked off and going to Tubi, God's gift to this world. So I'm glad that we were actually able to see this movie in the theater, in a big screen. I went to an actual movie theater and I watched this. I didn't stream it. I don't even think you can stream it at the moment, which is crazy. This is primarily done through the hard work of Mark and his wife Amy, and the insane word of mouth that the Markiplier community has done, which is just so crazy for any release to have 4,000 theaters showing it across the world. That is just crazy. Iron Lung starts out of the gate quite abruptly. No studio logos, not one for Markiplier or whatever. It was actually quite weird because I was given no time to kind of prepare for the start of the movie. Like, I know, the movie theater shows that thing where it's like, yeah, the movie's starting out for real. But I feel like with the logo, you still have a bit of time to just kind of like, get eased into it, okay, let's breathe down, just finish a conversation, let's chill. But no, you are thrown kind of straight into the action, which is kind of my first issue. I felt a bit disoriented. I felt like, oh God, like, Jesus, we're in this already. I imagine it's trying to make us feel like the main character, just being thrown into a situation you know nothing about. But as an audience member, I don't know how I feel about that. I think that's kind of cool, but I also definitely felt a bit disoriented. You are Simon, a convict being sent down to an ocean full of blood to capture photos and samples of what's on the depths of the floor. The movie mainly consists of Simon, played by Markiplier, trying to survive this ship and successfully complete his mission so he's able to earn his freedom. You are aided by a team communicating to you through a hard-to-hear speaker and search using a piece of shit camera. It's a pretty decent plot, though at times I find it incredibly hard to actually understand, as this is a one-man project for the most part. It's mainly Mark and the Iron Lung by himself, and besides seeing your handler near the start of the movie, get used to seeing some Simon. The real issue with all this is the speaker though. Sound-wise, this movie falls completely flat. The soundtrack was fine and definitely added to the mood of the movie, but the audio balancing, maybe it was just my theater, but oh my God, it was horrendous. I started talking to a couple friends who also saw this in other theaters, and while actually hearing the characters talk like Simon, that was fine, but hearing them talk through the communication speaker was a major issue. Most of the time it was pretty much impossible to hear major plot points going on until they're actually seen in front of you. If you ask me about some of the finer details of this movie, I could not answer you, honestly. It was quite difficult, but I did understand most of the major story beats. When you could hear the dialogue as well, it was pretty well written, which is nice, but unfortunately due to this speaker, you just can't hear most of it. The Iron Lung set itself is actually quite nice. It actually made this thing in real life. It's not a green screen, which is also something to talk about. The production. The practical effects are great. The movie is visually fantastic, and the effects are really what elevates the entire production from a simple YouTuber movie to an actual movie that sits at the dinner table with other films. Unfortunately, what doesn't really help the experience is the cinematography. Now, I will admit, the theater I went and saw this clearly did not care about Markiplier's little movie being shown because the top and the bottom of the screen was actually cropped a little bit weirdly. I'm not sure if anyone else also shared that experience, so please let me know. But I did have to actually use my head and think, okay, is this shot bad because my movie theater is cropping it, or is it bad just because it's not a nice shot? In a lot of cases, I felt like shots were a bit too empty and a bit too wide, and it does look like they were kind of filmed for a YouTuber's vlog, which sadly did take me out of the experience a little bit. Though to top this section off a little bit on a positive note, the finer details of the movie were absolutely fantastic. Easily my favorite one being that Mark's hair got less curly throughout the movie to match the level of condensation in the Iron Lung. It was an incredibly nice touch. The cast is made up of a couple of actual actors, YouTubers / content creators, and Troy Baker. I think this is kind of weird. This is definitely a YouTuber movie, no doubt about it, but it's also kind of desperately trying to prove that it's not. I remember when Beast Games was being promoted and Mr. Beast said there was a lot riding on the success of it, as he was defining all YouTuber movies and TV content with it.
But everything's on the line there as well.
I have everything riding on this, because if it flops, then YouTubers are flops. If it flops, then they wasted a lot of money. If it flops, then I'm just a YouTuber that doesn't know how to make traditional media.
Which went, despite YouTubers making up a lot of the cast here, they're not really noticeable besides Mark. Jacksepticeye had a minor role, which I think it was fine. It was on screen for like a second. But really, I thought Alana Pierce did an incredible job in the movie. I saw her along with Jacksepticeye in Dispatch, and I thought her voiceover work in that game and in here is real stellar. Mark's acting here, in my opinion, is quite hit or miss. Sometimes he'd break out a very convincing performance. I felt like his more somber scenes were absolutely fantastic. He does that little crying emotion quite well. But when he got angry, I felt like it was straight out of his FNAF Let's Play series where he was just faking it to his audience. Towards the end of the movie, I definitely felt he got better though. At its best, I was fully immersed and actually believed him as Simon, but at its worst, I was kind of getting a bit of flashbacks to Five Nights at Freddy's the Musical. Wait, that's actually kind of a good thing. I don't know why I'm complaining about that. Alright, so now we're at the part of the video where I'm going to talk about a couple of spoilers. If you do not want to join me in the spoiler zone, then please skip ahead on your device. Alright, now that we've entered the spoiler zone, let's just talk about some things in specific detail. Easily, my favorite scene in the movie is when Ava and Mark are telling each other's names and Mark is learning to trust her again after his little insanity break. It's got the most tension, it's got the most energy, and it feels like just such a great payoff to the rest of the movie. It's so unfortunate that, in my opinion, the scenes follow it just completely remove any of the momentum that was built up from that scene, and just slows down a ton. The scene with Mark surrounded completely by the blood ocean looked gorgeous, and the monster coming to kill him, it just looked so brilliant. The effects were great, it looked so visually pleasing, and I thought the ending was fine. I liked the emotion of Mark clawing himself to throw what I assume was the hard drive of the computer out the window, and I also loved seeing how natural everything was. I know Stranger Things 5 recently came out, there's also kind of spoilers for that, so skip ahead like 10 seconds. It wasn't very natural. This nailed the naturality, it looks so nice. Last thing I would want this review to achieve is making Mark or anyone watching feel demotivated to make more stuff like this. This movie, in my opinion, is an achievement. I barely consider it a YouTuber movie because I don't really feel like a YouTuber did it. It's more closer to a movie I would actually watch in theaters. It's just made by someone who loves games, movies, and wants to make something, and really, I can't fault that. Sure, I think this falls flat in many ways, but there is definitely enough good in this production that makes me want to see this team come back, take a crack at something more conventional, because I think trying to pull off one man in a room for an entire movie is a massive overstatement even for a massive studio. I think in the next project I'd like to see some tighter pacing, better cinematography, and something that just managed to capture the striking alien visuals again, because they were so good and such a highlight of the movie. I'm really tossing and turning between giving Iron Lung a 5 or a 6. Even in my script, I actually haven't written what I'm going to say yet, but I think I'm going to give Iron Lung a 5 out of 10. That's my final review. I'd love to see more. Please keep going, guys. I want to see more. As a first production, like as an actual feature-length film, fantastic work. You guys did great. Like for a first ever, it's pretty good. I'll be real. But once you guys, take your learnings, learn a bit from this experience, come back, I think we'll be much, better with that. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to talk about the movie with me, comment down below. Love to talk. Probably going to make some more film reviews, so I'd really appreciate your support and criticism on this. So, yeah. See ya.